I call Joe Powell to make his maiden speech.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and it's a great pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Wetherby and Easingwold and the excellent maiden speeches from my honourable friends Ealing Southall and Doncaster East and the Isle of Axholme. It gives me great delight to address this House as the new Member of Parliament for Kensington and Bayswater. Now, I doubt for any of us the last 7 weeks have been easy. I know many honourable members will still be catching up on their sleep after the campaign trail, but having our twins born in the first week of the general election campaign took things to another level. If timing is everything in politics, then this is certainly not a combination I would recommend anyone repeating, but they will obviously have a great story to tell when they're older. And I wanted to start by taking a moment to thanking the team at Queen Charlotte's Hospital and across the Imperial College NHS Trust for their incredible care. Our NHS staff deserve our utmost respect and support, and I hope in the future St Mary's, Hammersmith and Charing Cross hospitals will finally get what they need to become the first-class premises that patients and staff in our community deserve, including delivering on plans for a brand new St Mary's Hospital. I want to pay tribute to my two predecessors in this new constituency. Felicity Buchan worked hard for the residents of Kensington in the past 5 years, and I want to particularly commend her work on the Homes for Ukraine programme. There are some issues here that are central to our national and international security that transcend party politics, and supporting the struggle for a free Ukraine is one of them, and I'm grateful for her work on this issue. In Kensington and Bayswater, we have the Ukrainian Cultural Centre, the Ukraine Embassy, and a substantial Ukrainian population. And having personally worked to support democracy and anti-corruption in Ukraine for many years, I will make sure our Ukrainian community continues to have a strong advocate in Parliament. I was also fortunate enough to inherit part of Dame Karen Butt's former constituency of Westminster North, and under previous boundaries, she represented North Kensington for many years. And I know from experience that tens of thousands of residents have been directly assisted by Karen with expertise and empathy. And I hope I can emulate even a small part of her unwavering focus on tackling poverty and our housing crisis, whether it's holding our social housing landlords to account, protecting private renters, including abolishing Section 21 no-fault evictions, or finally ending the outdated feudal leasehold system. Karen did a monumental amount of work to advance these causes, and I'm sure she was absolutely delighted with their inclusion in the King's Speech. She's always exemplified public service over self-interest, and I will do my best with her my other colleagues who are inheriting that constituency to live up to her legacy, and I know how grateful we are for her 27 years of service in this House. Now, Kensington and Bayswater is an incredible part of London, as many of you will already know. Indeed, I canvassed many honourable members during the campaign, and I've already been picking up casework in the corridors. But we are an amazing community with fantastic community campaigners and organisations, businesses, entrepreneurs, charities, heritage, music, parks, schools, and so much going for it. But also a deep inequality that has widened in recent years. There is now a 19-year gap between the life expectancy of a woman born in Nottingdale, in North Kensington, compared with Holland Park, only a third of a mile away from each other. And that gap has increased by 5 years in the last decade alone. Over 6,000 children are living in poverty, and over 3,000 families are on a growing housing waiting list. So while we are rightly proud of our contribution to the nation's economy in terms of growth, talent, innovation and finance in so many different industries, and we celebrate the tourists who come to visit our museums, Portobello Road and our parks, we must also tackle the underlying causes of that inequality that prevents too many people in my constituency from reaching their full potential, whether that's housing, education or employment opportunities. And I know from the thousands of people I've met across our constituency that far too many feel like government is not working for them. They see too many politicians putting political party before country and self-interest before community. And I know that trust in government and politicians has plummeted as a result. But it doesn't have to be this way. I've spent my career working to make democracy work better in dozens of countries around the world by supporting reformers in government to work with civil society, to be more transparent, more inclusive and more accountable, and to deliver for people on the priorities they care about. In Kensington and Bayswater, that means, for example, getting to grip with the dirty money in luxury property that still stains our community. And despite recent progress in legislation and the leadership that Baroness Hodge and the Honourable Member for Sutton Coldfield and many others have shown on this topic, we still have one of the highest number of anonymously owned properties registered in tax havens in our constituency, with loopholes allowing autocrats and kleptocrats to continue shielding their ownership. And many of those properties sit empty, hurting our local businesses, our schools, and hollowing out our sense of community. And I agree that those frozen under sanctions should be utilised as soon as possible. So I'm determined to build on our Kensington Against Dirty Money campaign and continue advocating for London to end its reputation as the dirty money capital of the world and instead become the anti-corruption capital of the world. Yeah. And there is no worse example of what happens when government stops listening to people and transparency and accountability is discarded than what happened at Grenfell Tower over 7 years ago. 72 people lost their lives in an entirely preventable tragedy, and yet we still do not have truth, justice and change for the bereaved, survivors and affected community. These are people whose lives were changed forever on the 14th of June 2017 and who have had to wait far too long for justice and for those responsible to be held to account. In the coming weeks, the second phase of the public inquiry will report, and I know honourable members here will join me in looking to those recommendations to ensure that a tragedy like Grenfell can never happen again. And I warmly welcome the inclusion of the duty of candour law for public servants in the King's Speech and applaud the effective campaigning from those affected by Grenfell, Hillsborough, infected blood, Windrush and others who have suffered from an unacceptable defensive culture across many of our public institutions. And I hope we can look at further measures to ensure robust oversight of the implementation of those recommendations from these inquiries. Mr Deputy Speaker, Kensington and Bayswater is a special place, making a huge contribution to our national life in so many ways. And my hope is under this Labour government we become a fairer place too, building on our strengths and addressing the inequalities that have held us back. It won't be easy and it won't happen overnight. As a QPR fan, I've learned over many years to be realistic. But we have an opportunity now to restore faith and trust in government and democracy and to restore our reputation internationally too. Thank you.
Before